Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Improv Network podcast. This is a series of conversations aimed at building stronger connections throughout the improv community. Kurt knows it. You ought to know it too. Hey, Kurt, thanks for joining. I'm James Quesada.
And I'm Bob Wick.
And we are your education team for the Improv Network. You can go to the improvnetwork.org to check out all sorts of resources, including an improv FAQ page with these conversations archived, as well as mini lectures in video format for your enjoyment. And we got profiles up the wazoo.
So many profiles. We still haven't reached the limit, though. I truly believe our audience can make more profiles.
Yes.
It's a challenge to all of you.
do the individual, do the team profile, do the teacher profile,
coaching profile, cold case profile.
Yeah. A good way to slip in a segue there to following up on last week's episode. We talked with the director of an upcoming show, Cold Case. Our guest Mallory is launching this Wednesday. Bob, you got info on that?
Yep, I just put the link in the comments. So click on that to get your tickets and check out a cool show.
And that's an immersive virtual experience. And if you want more info on it, all you have to do is check out last week's episode of the Improv Network podcast. And we'll do a deep dive on immersive theater and the virtual world of posthumous. My mind wanted to go purgatory, but posthumous is the world of.
That would be a cool immersive show, though. I'd go to see Purgatory live.
Yeah, it's pretty much there's a lot of overlap in the concepts. But anywho, enough about last week's episode. We are very excited for this week's episode.
Yeah.
We have a wonderful guest lined up. We have been making our way through all of the staff members of the Improv Network. And rounding out the roster, we have our good friend, secretary of the board for the Improv Network, LA-based improviser, tax man. Please welcome Jeff Thompson.
Yeah.
No, sell all my stock. Just sell it all. Oh, hey guys, how's it going?
Hey man, that seems like an important call. Like you didn't have to.
No, just important secretary stuff. Nobody knows what the secretary of the board does, so maybe they sell stocks.
Yeah, our stock manager.
Yeah.
But thanks so much for joining. I'm glad that we were able to get you on.
Yeah, I'm glad. I know I'm a hard guy to nail down, mostly because I don't usually wake up in the morning. And some people, thanks, Kurt. Some people might even argue that I'm not awake yet. So,
man, I totally relate, and I get it. It's 1 p.m. here, and I'm still like, this is the earliest I want to commit to doing a weekly show. So I appreciate you being here at 10 a.m. your time.
There was a debate when we started this, like, do we do noon? No, man, that's what time I wake up on Sunday. How about 1? Yeah, I guess. 2, that's too late. We might not get people to watch this.
Yeah, I'm going to be heading toward my nap by 2.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that it's wonderful how like sensitive we've become to other people's time zones in the past couple of years. Like when you invite people to stuff, you always put like PST or EST, because if I had $1 for every time I said 1 p.m. and I got a call at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
So twice. So didn't happen very often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, we're excited to talk to you. We're going to start with the topic of listening. And to be honest, we're basically starting there because it's not a topic that we've had on an episode before. And because it's as good a place as any to meander off in any way we want throughout the conversation. So we might not stick too tightly to the topic of listening, but we'll start there. Yeah, I don't know. One thing that I'll just throw out there as kind of a kickstarter to the conversation is that I think there was a good amount of conversation that I've come across about listening being passive versus active. And specifically, like there's active listening in like conversation and whatnot, but like how does active listening represent itself in improv? Like what do you do as a good listener more so than like what does it mean to listen, I guess is my question to start.
Yeah, I think when you said that conversation, I was thinking about how people have been talking. I'm not sure if you guys are like deep in this debate about like you share a personal experience and then I share a personal experience, and some people are saying like doing that like is hogging the conversation, making it about you, and other people say that it's sharing an experience and empathizing and saying like, hey, look, this thing that you went through a breakup, I also went through a breakup. Or a bake up, which is the saddest way to say goodbye to
I do a lot of baking post breakup, so that's what I call it. Time to bake up, buddy. Your heart
break
hurts.
Bake up. But yeah, I'm not sure if you can tell if somebody's listening by what they're doing while they're listening. I'm sure that like mm-hms and things like that help, but like we don't really do that in scenes. I think you can tell how well somebody listens by what they respond to or how they respond. And I always try to tell students like, don't like have an emotional response to what the person is saying, which is basically letting what the person says affect you, right? And that's when you really have those like really fun moments where you can take anything that the person said and hear it and apply like context or subtext to it. And then it really shows that not only were you listening to what they were just saying, but you've been paying attention the entire scene or show.
Yeah. I don't know where the debate goes on that sharing personal experiences, but
we'll
that
get
is
into it.
That's how I listen for sure in conversation. Is sometimes I do actively try to do a better job of like asking questions as opposed to like matching sharing. But I think my default personally is to match, and it's interesting because I think that there is an equivalent of that in improv where you might like just match kind of like the give and take is you establish something, I'll establish something.
Yes.
And we're just kind of like sharing what we know about each other or what we're missing in the world. We're just like going back and forth, filling in the gaps. And sometimes I do find myself in that mode in improv, and that's a little bit slower of a scene build to me than taking what somebody said and like internalizing and reacting to it, like and obviously if you can do both of them at once, that's the perfect scenario. But I just thought it was interesting that like I do find myself sometimes just matching the like what we're putting on the table in an improv scene as opposed to like really reacting or digging deeper into what the other person just said.
I do think that's a kind of so the first part, I do think that's an interesting conversation. Like, are you hogging a conversation by relating? And I think that's all about intent. Like, oh, you had your heart broken. I know what it feels like, man. You'll get through this. I've been through it before, and hey, I was fine, and you'll be fine, and that's cool. Or hey, I just went through a breakup. Oh my God, let me tell you about my breakup. Like to me, there's a nuance to it. Oh yeah, thank you for your one sentence. I'm gonna do a soliloquy on every breakup I ever had and how it affected me probably more than you do right now because I'm the main character of my movie, and I'm gonna get the monologue. But I also like what you said about in a scene like adding subtext, because some of my favorite moves are when someone takes like a very simple sentence and turns it into like a feeling or almost like I know this about you because this is also true. and then we learn more about that character. So I always like that kind of listening skill. Like I'm stealing this from somebody, so don't give me credit, but treating every line of dialogue as a gift. I'm sure everybody's heard some version of that before. And I do love that. Like if you're active listening, use the whole buffalo, as they say in improv.
And honestly, it's one of the reasons I know I kind of diminished the reason we chose listening at the top of the episode, but truly one of the reasons that I did think it would be a good kickoff point for you, Jeff, is that I've never improvised with you, but just talking with you, you are really fun to talk to because you do a lot of bits, and the way that you do bits, I can just tell that you are a great listener in improv, and that the way that you manifest listening is to pull little details and then immediately use them, reapply them in a heightening sort of way. You find yourself doing that in
Oh no, my secrets. I thought that I did it so well.
That's the whole premise of this podcast, bud. Spill it.
Yeah, it's I mean that's kind of why I teach it, because I'm like, oh yeah, that like super works for me. And I've like I preach the gospel of like listening because it's helped me in so many different aspects of my life. And so we can start at the beginning. So as you may or may not know, I teach psychology. And the reason why I teach psychology is because I wanted to become a psychologist, but then I was like, this is hard, and I cannot emotionally be there for people all the time like this. And also, if I became a psychologist, I couldn't be an actor because you cannot skip therapy sessions to go to an audition. And so I had to choose, and I think I chose something.
Just getting somebody to cover. Like, I gotta have, like, I need my Saturday. Can somebody just jump in? And he's super easy client. Like,
he's on the roof right now. Just like go, like, hey, I'm Greg. So I'm just subbing in for Jeff. Don't do it. So
don't do it. That's your. I don't know what you're planning on doing. Just don't do it. No.
Yeah. So one thing that you learn in like therapy school, if you go to a good therapy school, is different types of listening, and also just the value of them. And so at the like most basic, psychology and improv are very intertwined. So at the most basic thing, like you just have the ability to listen and reflect. So you said, oh yeah, just now. And then before that you said, yeah. So the like just simply being able to hear what somebody said and then repeat it, right? Which seems so simple, but people are really bad at it, right? Because, I could be like, oh yeah, you said, yeah. And then you said, oh yes, which is kind of what you said, but it isn't exactly what you said. Because like when we remember something, usually what we do is we apply our own memory and emotion in our retelling of that thing. So we distort what we hear, which if you know your comedic voice, you use that for comedy, and then you hear what somebody said and you misinterpret a situation and make it funny. But in like actual relationships, it's problematic. And also when you're just starting out and you're not actually listening to people, you're just picking and choosing just so that you can say something funny, then that's a problem. And then on top of like that, just kind of reflective listening, then you can add on like active listening. So, proper yes, okays, and proper like interjections with questions for clarification. Even if it's something more rhetorical, like he actually said that to you, which is just kind of mirroring the emotion. And then you have like more interpretive active listening or active reflection, where you reflect with an interpretation. You said, yep. You said, okay. Yeah. Now I'm forgetting what you actually said. But I could even say something like, it sounds like we're on the same page about a lot of these things, right? And doing that while I was also training in improv, at a certain point, I just was like, oh, let me just like listen to what people are saying, because I think one thing that I've been working on, and you'll tell me if I've gotten okay at this or not, is just being like a fun person, like just being like a person who like, because I've had that, like when you're talking to somebody and then this person is just like so focused on you, and it's like for that person everything in the world has melted away and they're solely focused on you. Like that's just such a wonderful feeling to just be seen in the moment. So I really try hard when I'm improvising to make people know, like, yo, I bet every word that you said I have listened to, and I'm here with you, and I'm going to like lift it up to the highest degree. And then take a break to like do really funny bits and like do stand up for a second. But yeah, that's my my first part of my big soapbox on listening.
Well, yeah, let me ask you a little follow up on that concept of zeroing in on somebody, because you started that little thread by saying you've been actively trying to be more of a fun person. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Like a fun and like a wow, I like really felt like my time with this person was valuable.
Gotcha.
Like I felt like, you know.
Yeah, and on and off stage both.
Yeah. I try to like I've done less checking over the phone when I'm talking to people. Just like things that I get distracted very easily. So it's actually like a challenge for me to like focus on one person the entire time. But I've been trying to like work through that so that I'm not like checking emails while I'm in a call with somebody.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I definitely Jeff, we're still
yeah. Oh,
you're right. No.
Oh,
Is it about the stocks?
yeah. Yeah, buy them back. We shouldn't have. Why do we sell all of them?
That's a fantastic goal. Something that I definitely relate to, and I feel like I've gone through stretches where that's been like my focus of like, how can I just be a more present person off stage, and put away the phone and stuff like that. I guess I'm just kind of curious, like how to you that goes hand in hand with being a more fun person to be around, like being present and being fun are, because you can also, I thought maybe where you were going with like the being intently focused on somebody, sometimes that makes people uncomfortable, that you're kind of like seeing into their soul, or like listening too hard, or like, psychoanalyzing them deeply while just like casually talking. I have had that experience where like if I'm too present and not fun, people, I'd be like, can we not have such like a oddly intimate, like deep hang right now? Like,
yeah.
So how do you like pair those together?
So this would be me admitting that I haven't fully figured it out yet, because I'm also like, I don't know. I really hate small talk. Like it doesn't do anything for me. I'm just like, why are we talking if we're not talking? So like, sometimes I'll just be like, hey, nice to meet you. We all die. So like, what's the deal with that?
Yeah,
that's what you lead in with. All right.
Yeah. Well, I started with, hey, nice to meet you. So that's how I lead in the second part.
Yeah. How much time do you think we actually have on this planet?
Yeah, because we could live to 70, but will the planet last that long?
Yeah.
Warming.
Well, I read this article, and the author was talking about small talk and big talk. Most of us, like casually, get into small talk, like, hey, how's it going? How you doing? What's up? Compared to getting a cab and like, hey, where are your parents from? What did they do? And like it might open up a new door. Like you can actually learn about somebody rather than just doing, the polite thing. Like, how's your day? And everybody's gonna say okay, no matter how their actual day is going, because that's the polite thing to respond with. So you don't learn anything. You're just going through the motions.
Although I really enjoy the new like, oh, I'm good. Well, all things considered.
Yeah.
But when everybody says it, it's, you know.
Yeah, that is really like, there's part of it where like really that should probably, that's a more honest and complete generic exchange, like even pre-pandemic is like if the norm was just to be like, I'm doing good, all things considered. Like that's but yeah. It's the new standard. I love it. Yeah. So okay. I just was glad to clarify. Yeah, the difference, although they do go hand in hand between like just being present and also being fun. And then is it easier or like what are the different goal sets that you have, you know, when you're performing to do both, to be present? Like you said, you're like really leaning into the people you're playing with and being like, I'm picking up everything that you're giving. But do you ever run into the challenge of like how to keep that comedic or how to rein that into something that like not only people feel listened to and supported, but like that the scene was funny, if that is the goal?
So one thing that I've been trying, and I actually got to do a stage improv show, which I haven't done in forever, and I was like, I think I'm going to be really bad at this. But then I was like, wait a second, I know like what I need to focus on, and I basically was like, I'm not going to concern myself with trying to be funny, because we all know that like even if we're not trying to be funny, the funny will come. And I'm not going to concern myself with like what I'm going to try to do. I'm not going to try to plan. I'm just going to like go out there and then see what's there and then like react to it. So and I've been trying to like work on this. I'm teaching a like documentary improv class. Not documentaries about improv, improvising documentaries. I'm not sure if I said that in the correct order. Improv documentary class.
But it's a long form format.
Thank you.
Completely improvised, but pulls themes or devices from documentary style.
Yes.
So like documentary now, improvised.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
We got there, guys. We got there.
But the thing that I've been like trying to focus on is like you don't have to do a lot. You like literally like I think people with a documentary, they're like, oh, I have to like monologue for like 3 minutes. No, you could like literally come in for like 30 seconds and just like talk about your feelings about a thing, or just like come in and say like, yeah, that Jeff guy, real asshole. Don't let that smile mislead you, right? And that could be it, right? And we always feel like we have to do so much, but honestly, we have to do so little. Also, like I've been trying to be more like hyper present focused, and in improv, like you want to like have the whole show figured out sometimes, but really all you need to do is be in the present moment, and then if you continue being in present moments for a while, then the show will be over. So really I just like try to and in improv you can be like a little more intent with your focus, so nobody gets too scared unless you like this guy in improv. Although it's really fun to be remember back in the day where you could just grab somebody by their shoulders and talk really close to their face. 2019 improv.
Wow,
so long. We're dating I think floppy disks were still a thing, like the big ones, the
rotary phones.
Yeah. And then grabbing people by the shoulders.
Doing this in the car to roll down the window.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's like just pressing a button, like, what is that?
You can go inside of McDonald's and eat. It was wild.
Woo! Just 3 guys hanging in a play place.
Yeah.
Eating their McRib. So yeah, I think the most important thing is just like being as present as possible, because if you're not, then how can you like do a scene if you have no idea what's going on, you know?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, like, both of you, like when you're active listening, what are you doing with the information? Are you just, do you put it, because we're all, if we're doing something narrative, we might be trying to.
Hang on, guys. But this cat's wreaking havoc in the room.
Now that James is gone.
Oh yeah.
I have
wait,
something.
he's back.
Oh.
I love that twice now in a conversation about listening, I've had to mute and disengage.
Right.
Let me. It's meta.
I hate to, but I got.
We can see that cat stalking you. So I was worried.
Yeah, I was really worried for like his safety. Yeah. Like it was
and now he's just
frightening.
Sitting there guarding.
Yeah.
So let me ask you.
Okay.
Because what I tend to do while I'm active listening is listen to what they're saying and what does that mean for me, the character or the situation. And then why are they saying this? What does that say about them, their character? Or is it just fluff? You know, are they just talking? Because especially like when you first start, like there's a lot of talking that doesn't really need to be, said. It just we're filling up air, because if we're not talking, then we're not doing our job as actors, which is not true at all. But that's how I think a lot of people feel that way when they first start.
I mean, yes, 100%. I always try to tell people like talk less. You don't need to do all that talking. Even though in real life I do a lot of that. And then in improv I like ramble because I'm funny. But the like other people don't do it, but when I do it, it's fine because I look at how charming I am. Man, I'm trying to think of like what actually goes on in my mind as I'm doing it, because my mind's like both empty and like racing at like a frantic pace at the same time. Because I'm like, okay, this person is saying something, so I'm like listening to what you're saying, and then I'm like, okay, what's my character doing? What have I done? Where is this possibly going? What are they possibly saying? What does that mean? How do I feel about that? Is it time to go meta right now? So I have like my like little stockpile of questions, and depending on the context, I'll be thinking about like different things. So like at the beginning of the scene, if somebody like starts the scene, then I'll always enter like somewhat like neutrally. I like kind of like sneak into the scene, because just in case they have like a strong initiation. And then once they start addressing me, I just I talk about like hypersensitivity a lot, where like instead of like like something like triggers you and you have that immediate like emotional reaction, and even if it's not like something that it would normally upset you, something about it just makes you feel something. That's what I try to like bring to improv, where like you don't judge that feeling until afterwards, and like whatever feeling that is the right feeling in the moment, even though it might be uncomfortable. And with improv, we're always like, oh, I gotta like pick the right thing, but the right thing is the first thing that you pick, and then everything subsequent, because if nothing's been established, then there's no right or wrong. Right. So I try to tell people like, just pick something. And if you're like, hey, did you get the, the beans from the store? Then I could like, for me, I personally like really hate when people ask me to do something that I've already done. I'm like, yeah, of course I got the beans. You need to just give me I literally just walked in the door, okay? You're attacking me.
Yeah.
And then they will respond to something, right?
Yeah. So again, I apologize for me having to step away. Yeah, I think it's when I love the way you described it, Jeff, is like your mind is blank and racing a mile a minute. I think what I'm doing when I'm listening is trying to, especially early in a scene, again, it's kind of like do both things of like also sharing a piece of the puzzle and then also reacting and digging deeper into what somebody just said to me, and giving it deeper meaning. And so when I hear, if I'm doing, I think if I'm doing a good job and I feel on my game, I will listen to someone's dialogue and then be like, almost literally in my head, be like, okay, so that means this, and make a choice about, there's, did you get the beans? And it's like, there's many possibilities of like we're baristas, or we're roommates, or we are Jack and the Beanstalk something or other, and I'll just pick one of those, and I'll say, so that means this, and then I'll load that and then try to find a way that naturally that sounds natural, not heavy-handed, and like indirectly like A to C's. Meaning, if you're not familiar with that term, that there's a to B to C, and kind of like skip the B and go right to C, with a line of dialogue that's like, okay, if it's the barista route, did I get the beans? And I'll be like, yes. Did you get Mr. Johnson to calm down and hang tight in the lobby or whatever? Like, there. I haven't said we're baristas or we work in hospitality or a hotel or whatever, but like I've indirectly kind of established that that's the route we're going, and given an additional piece of info. That example might not be the best job of it or necessarily funny.
No, perfect. Nailed it.
Lots of Mr. Johnson fans in the comments.
Yeah, lots of Mr. Johnson, the Johnson reports, those all.
what I do like about that, this is what I do like about that, and I would probably also be conscious of this in a scene, is that I literally was not able to come up with someone's first name in that moment. So I said Mr. Johnson just to like slap a placeholder in there, so that we can move on with the establishment in some way, shape, or form. And that now is like a weird thing where I'm like, I wanted to be baristas, but now it seems more like we are in the executive lounge of like, some office building or like a meeting place for powerful people. And so by trying to do one thing, I've incidentally implied something a little off from that. And again, like you said, Jeff, is to just name it. And even if you kind of like flub it, then you're going to find something great in the flub.
And that's the second secret, which is listening to yourself.
Yeah. I was going to say, sometimes I don't do that enough. Yeah.
It's no, like we just focus on getting the words out, and then sometimes we say these things that like surprise us. And like if you're like Mr. Johnson, and then someone is like, and Mr. Johnson's here as well, and then we're like, we work at Johnson and Johnson,
Johnson.
The lots of vaccine related humor is it's poignant.
Yeah, we are at the lab of Johnson and Johnson while they're developing the vaccine, and
the Starbucks lab in Johnson and Johnson.
Yeah. Well, okay, so we have a couple questions from Kurt on multiple platforms, which I think are somewhat related. So Kurt asks, first of all, on YouTube, what about abstract talk? Like in a lull in the conversation, ask, are people tubes? And a follow-up on the Facebook page. If you have a scene that has everything it needs, if a character asks a character a small talk or big talk question, can that unnecessarily escalate the scene? Maybe I need clarification on that, Kurt. But then the second part is, if a scene is missing the unusual thing, can a question add that? And I think that those two things are related, because I do think sometimes, or I'll go ahead and throw it to you, Jeff, to answer as our guest.
I haven't tried abstract talk yet, but I think I will try it because in my mind I see like myself like mumbling like, are people tubes? And then the person going like, what? And then me going like, never mind. And then the rest of their day, like, did Jeff ask, are people tubes?
Yeah.
So I love living in people's brains rent free. I don't love it. That's scary to me. Why do they think about me? Is it bad? Do people still like me? So as far as like unnecessary escalation, like if all the like groundwork is set up, I feel like there's no such thing as unnecessary escalation. I might be like wrong on that, but I feel like it should be constantly heightening, especially now this is more, well, no, I would agree, even if you're doing like long form narrative in a scene, you should be heightening. Now you shouldn't be resolving the entire narrative, but the scene should have a reason for being. It should still have a beginning, middle, and end. So the I think what the intent behind that might be could just be like people who unnaturally escalate. So like, how are you doing? You know what I mean?
I'd watch that.
Actually,
Yeah, I guess so. Kurt, if you're not already given a little bit of an elaboration on it, I'd be curious to know if what you mean is what Jeff said is like unnecessarily, as in like kind of take it in a forced direction.
I can see it doing the opposite, like de-escalating. Like, oh man, we're about to rob that bank. Hey man, how's your mom doing? Oh, really good. She still make that dish I like? Oh, what dish is that? That dish I like. Well, let's talk about that. We could rob the bank, but no, we're going to talk about this dish from a fictional character, and we're not even being specific about what dish. So you can't even, see it in the theater of the mind, if you will. So yeah, I can see it de-escalating rather than escalating.
Although I really love that scene because I do kind of love like the activity that we're supposed to do, but then we get caught up in a side conversation like, hey man, you've been asking about my mom a lot. Like, what's going, like, I'm fine. She's like, a sexual woman. She's a sexual creature, but just kind of like.
Yeah. I mean, it was weird when I was younger, but now I'm older and, the age gap wouldn't be as weird as it was when I was like, I know, in high school. So how is your mom doing?
I mean, like, look, she's 50. She had me when she was a little younger. But, like, somebody 50 dating somebody 30 isn't weird. Just like, do you want?
So you don't have a problem with a 20-year age gap, is what you're saying?
Yeah, no. In this scene, in real life, I literally, my girlfriend and I have the same birthday. She was born 3 seconds before me. So like I guess I have an older woman a fetish, but that's disgusting.
Is that some kind of filter you had on like Bumble, or it was this coincidence you met her?
Both. So I pay for Bumble Plus, and you can get real weird with real weird. No, we're not the same age. Just for the Jeff fans who were like fact checking, like, no, she was her birthday's June 3rd, and yours is October 23rd.
Well, okay, so going back to
sidetracked.
Well, a couple. Well, I honestly like I think what's happening here and there in our conversation is we're having good examples of ways that like listening comes into play with improv, because one thing that I kind of have a pin in that I do want to talk about is like sometimes if you're listening too hard or not listening too hard, but like sometimes the result of wanting to listen so intently that you use every single sentence for something can take you on these tangents, and then it's like you want to build and follow in one direction, but then what do you do to get back to the arc of like, shit, how did we get here? And where's the overall show or scene going? That also takes, to me, relates to what Kurt is asking about, like these questions, because that is like something that I think is a good go-to. If you do find a game early in a scene and things do escalate, or you come off the top of a scene just like really heightening, and then it doesn't get edited, or it just isn't the right time in the show for another short scene.
Right.
to kind of de-escalate it, like you said, Bob, is that you can just go to small talk.
Yeah. And then from there, you can always reset it by reiterating like one of the first sentences that started the scene in the first place. So you're almost resetting.
Yeah.
Taking the mulligan, if you will.
Yeah. So I think it is like a good takeaway from this idea of small talk and big talk is that you can use those to just like that. People do that, right? In real conversations, you might have like this lull or break, and yeah, you can just kind of throw out like a small talk conversation, keep it in the, I think if it's too far off, if it's not using anything about what you've established so far in the scene, it can detract from what you gave yourselves. But at the same time, it's like, you know, if you do find yourself in a scene that like doesn't seem to be catching, or, you know, is just feeling kind of like mundane or whatever, you can just kind of like throw in a big talk question or an abstract question and be like, I've been losing sleep over this thought that maybe we're tubes. I don't personally see anything wrong with that, and in fact, I think that it can be very helpful just as like a mechanical move for an improviser, as long as it's not coming out of like a knee-jerk panic reaction because you're hung up on worrying about the scene being funny or interesting. If you're using it more just like a playful device of like, I recognize that this scene hasn't really taken, maybe I can just kind of throw a fun toy into the mix and see where it takes us from there.
Yeah, I think the like what you said is the key part, like not acting out of fear, acting out of like intentionality. So like the in grading papers, like there's some students who write 3 pages because they have a lot to say about like something, and then there are people who write 3 pages because it was 11:57 and then they just basically like did cocaine and like wrote whatever. Like, and I like dogs. Dogs are fluffy and big and fluffy and big and fluffy, but some of them small and not fluffy. Which still great paper, but a B. So the like I like if as a character, like I feel uncomfortable with the way the conversation is going, and like it's established that like I like, or maybe not even established, but like it would make sense that my character would try to like steer the conversation away, like, you know, significant other accusing you of cheating, and then it's like, babe, I would never ever oh my god, I just remembered that did you take the dog for a walk? We should just make sure the dog was walked. I was like, babe, stop changing the subject. I am not.
Yeah.
Babe, I would never, ever. Are people tubes?
Like, I'm going to get back to this. Got lipstick on your collar, but are they?
Yeah. We have another question from Sue.
Yay, Sue.
Hi, Sue. Often I find that listening is a way to shut down the internal auditor / writer in my mind while on stage to simply be present and react to my scene partner. It almost feels like cheating. Also, again, pulling from our cheating scenario sometimes. What's your opinion? Yeah. Is it too easy, Jeff?
Why? Like it's really funny because like people always try to make things like super hard. Like in writing, people are like, I'm not going to learn like structure or anything like that. You know, like it would be like, oh, I want to learn how to play piano. Let me like build my own piano first. Right. If there are things that make your job easier as a writer, actor, or whatever, like techniques, use them because that is the whole point of training, where you learn techniques to make your job easier. So if you know that like if a scene is tanking or hasn't started yet, you have these like techniques that will make your scenes great, then do them. I do understand what you mean, because I am super talented like yourself, Sue, and every scene that I do is amazing. And sometimes you just get bored of it, right? I just get so bored of success. And so I think what can sometimes happen is you feel like you're doing all scenes in a very mechanical way, and then I think that's when you like put little challenges for yourself. So some months I'll just be like, I'm going to try to play characters who do not speak, but can I still yes and if I'm not speaking? And sometimes I can't. Or I'll play big characters that are way different than who I am. Or I'll see how weird I can get with still being grounded. Or I'll play, there are a multitude of things that you can do to break up your own routine. But still, you need that like foundation of core basics. It would be kind of like saying like, yes, sanding is too easy. Like no, like that's the core of it. And knowing that rule just because it makes things easier doesn't mean that you're cheating. But I do cheat by writing all my lines on my head before the show.
That's the secret, man.
That's why I'm always gesturing out here. Gosh.
Yeah. Are people tubs? Are people tubes?
That's why I always wear a hat on all my characters, so I can do this, scan it, talk. That's how I get away with it. Works every time.
James, how do you cheat?
I mean, honestly, that was such a great answer that you gave. With the making things too easy on yourself is like I both totally agree with what you're saying. That like we're always trying to like make it more difficult than it needs to be, and that there's two ends of that. There's the one end that's like you need to learn how to simplify things to make things easier on yourself, use what's available. But then I absolutely also agree with what you said that yeah, sometimes it really is like if you find yourself just having the same types of results from what you're doing, even if it's easier and generally successful than you do. I think it's important for every improviser to find things that keep things challenging and fun, but not at the expense of your partner or wrecking the show or whatever. Right. But like, yeah, finding ways to keep yourself. That's a huge reason of why we all got into this and why we're still doing it, is because of this endless learning curve and it feeling like a thrill-seeking adventure. So if that thrill goes away, even if you're doing a good job all the time, then it is like, maybe I'll throw a little curveball in, or I'll give myself an added challenge to have different results and different types of scenes.
Yeah. I just want to add to both of you, like, so listening is great, and your response, the yes part is usually a direct result of the information your scene partner gave you, but that's all you. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the listening and response part, that can be mechanical, but then when it comes to the anding part, that's when you get to play, and then they have to deal with whatever you throw back at them. So that's when the fun. So maybe having your internal judge or writer, quiet during that time can surprise you, and then then you have an organic discovery. So then you both get to play with something that you just added to the scene.
I would love to steal from two other disciplines. So one stand-up and two basketball. So follow me for a second. So stand-up, when you do stand-up comedy, you usually do a blend of material that hits and new material. So that no matter what, you're doing a good show, right? That new material that you throw in might not necessarily work, but you have your jokes that you just know are going to hit every time. Even though sometimes with some audiences it just don't. So I think that is how you prevent things from being too easy, by like knowing like your stock stuff. And if you did that all the time, it would just be boring. You'd just be doing the same show over and over and over, right? And throwing in something new that like challenge, like, can I do this kind of humor? Will this type of thing hit? Same thing with like basketball, or a similar thing with basketball, where like everybody who plays basketball knows how to do a layup. It's the easiest technique, from what I've been told, to do in a basketball game. Saying like, well, I don't want to do a layup because it's too easy. Well, like, no, like you'll have plenty of opportunity in your career to do challenging, like all the way across the court, right at the buzzer.
Beater,
yeah. But if you have that foundation of like a solid foundation of like, this is stuff that I know will work, and I'll play around and try to improve, then you'll be good. But that's like the artist thing where we get into routines, and then we either go like, oh, this is fine, or we go, no, I want more. So be RAL, want more. Sell your comedy skills to a sea witch. But also, Ursula kind of gets a bad rap. It was a business transaction, and Ariel didn't read the fine print. So are we going to like get mad at an Ursula corporation just because she's trying to make billions of dollars for her shareholders?
Nope. Read your contracts, kids.
Also, Triton gave her like a $3 billion bailout. So like, who's the bad guy?
It's funny. It's one of the only. Well, I guess not one of the only. There's plenty of like deal with the devil stories, but like it is funny that Ariel like agreed. Yeah. She did it to herself in some ways.
Right.
Yeah. Also, why aren't we blaming the handsome prince?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You didn't have to give up anything. That's what I'm saying.
And then he's like, oh, who's this hot lady who's different from the other hot lady that I was apparently in love with?
You don't even know what she sounds like, bro.
Yeah.
You're just all about the looks, man.
Throw her back in. Yeah.
How good looking can she be? She combs her hair with a fork.
I pull my hair with a fork.
You guys think people are tubes?
Salad or like shrimp? How does that work?
It does. Sometimes it doesn't. But it's got 4 tines, so I can't do a 3-time fork.
Well, so as it's happening again, let me pull this pin out of the topic of Jeff. What are your thoughts on like again? You're so good at latching on to the last thing said or last line of dialogue and building bits, and you even mentioned before you went on that you are often tangential. So how do you do you kind of lean into that and let yourself be someone on stage or off that kind of like just follows it until we are as far away as we're going to get from where we started, or do you sometimes have to mitigate like how do you get it back to the track that you were on in a scene or in a conversation or anything?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think one thing when you're like learning any art is you try to imitate people who you think are great. But I think there's a certain point where you kind of like learn what works for you. Mm-hmm. Like I just know that I'm like terrible at characters. Like I'm decent at them, but like doing like sustained, like having like stock characters like some people have where they're like, this is my this guy, this is my this guy, and all of them have different voices and like thoughts, and I write journals for them. Like that's never gonna be like me. Or who knows, cut to me in like 2 years, a completely different person. So you have to do what works for you, because my brain, like since it's always like running like a little mouse on like a motor scooter, I lost that one.
I got you.
Yeah, okay. The image is clear.
Yeah.
Squeak, squeak. It like I can deal with multiple threads of information at once, so it's very easy for me to like if this is the like path of the scene, make like little loop-de-loops and twirls. So the because I know back to like the boring stuff, like I know my relationship with the person in the scene, and I know like, okay, so like we're roommates, we're fighting about like time in the bathroom in the morning, right? And then one of you asked me, "Are we tubes?" And then I'm like, "Look, guys, we're made out of tubes. Yeah, but does that mean that we're tubes? Like computers are made out of parts, but they're not parts. They're computer. It's the gestalt. Like the sum is the whole is greater than the sum of its parts."
Yeah.
Anyway, the bathroom, right?
Yeah.
So I know that like I can go on a tangent and then in the back of my mind say like, but like, what's the thing that we're focused on? Also, one thing that people don't use enough is just asking questions through the character, because like we've all in life like been in a conversation and gone like, wait, what were we talking about before? So why wouldn't a character say that? Like in character, I could be like, tubes, tubes, tubes. Wait, we were talking about something important. There was a reason why the three of us gathered.
Yeah.
What's about the tubes? Macaroni? Syrup. One of you's dating my mom. I'm fine with that. The age gap is nothing, right?
No, yeah, I'm over that. Yeah.
So both of you? What? I mean, she's a sexual woman. I hope that my actual mom never watches this.
Oh, my Jeff is on one of those podcoms. I'm gonna hit the button.
Let me put it loud for all the church members to hear. Come on. Oh, bless you, my child. Bless you. I don't know why there's an old-timey monk in my house, but so to answer your question, that's kind of how I do it, where I give myself the freedom to go on little adventures, but I know that I have to return home at some point.
Yeah, and take care of the foundation first.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, great. Then this has been a great conversation. We're at the end of our time. Jeff, thank you so much for joining. Before we let you go, is there anything you want to plug?
Over?
Yeah, that's it, man.
Oh man, I blocked up 3 hours for this. No plugs for me. I mean, my plug would just be it's crazy time, so take care of yourself. That's my plug.
Good plug. Good plug.
Well, thanks again for joining. We really appreciate being here. It's been a great conversation about listening.
Yes.
What?
To everyone else, thanks so much for your great questions from Kurt and from Sue. Thanks for tuning in. And remember that we are streaming live on the Facebook group and the Facebook page for the Improv Network, as Kurt took advantage of, as well as the YouTube channel for Improv FAQ, which Kurt also took advantage of. You can comment on both. And we are also available as an audio-only podcast. You can get the audio from these conversations anywhere podcasts are found. So subscribe to that. Catch up on all the ones you've missed on the live stream slot. Otherwise, we'll catch you Sundays, 1 p.m. Eastern every week, except for probably some holiday dates that are coming up. Actually, I think we're off for the last 2 weeks of December as I'm reaffirming our weekly time slot. But we'll catch you next week. Thanks again, Jeff.
Yeah.
And we'll catch you next time on the Improv Network.